This is my presentation on a class for re-imaging the pastoral. It's structured as a follow-up lesson to reading William Shakespeare's As You Like It, and looks at setting and particularly pastoral setting in both sort of a Industrial Revolution England and today. The curricular area is English Language Arts. It's intended for about 10th grade, and I envision the unit length to be about 1 to 2 weeks, but this really depends on a lot of factors like how long and how often the class meets, what is the student's level of access to technology, how many classes need to be devoted to lab time, things like that. For essential questions or objectives, I think students will be able to understand how pastoral imagery was used and to what purposes in Shakespeare's As You Like It. What did the pastoral mean in Shakespeare's time, and what might it look like today? Students will use technology to create a multimedia representation of what pastoral means to them in the 21st century. And I want them to sort of look at the question of, can pictures, drawings, audio, video, any form of digital media capture the same information as text? Can it convey the same sort of emotions and feelings? And students will explore diverse perspectives and see how personal history can individualize shared experiences. For learner outcomes, what do students need to know, understand, and be able to do? They will read and understand Shakespeare's use of setting in As You Like It within the context of 17th and 18th century England. Then they will translate the feeling and intent of the pastoral into a 21st century setting using images, videos, and sound. They will then present their creation in a shareable digital format such as Prezi, Adobe Spark, or Google Slides, and translate a classmate's understanding of the pastoral into text, such as a short piece of prose, a sonnet, blank verse, etc. And finally, they will reflect on how their own imagery was interpreted, whether it was received as intended, and did they learn something new about their creation by seeing it through the eyes of someone else. For the unit outline, it'll begin the anticipatory set. As I said, it will occur as a follow-up to reading Shakespeare's As You Like It. So students will have been exposed to this imagery, and we will have talked about the historical context. And while they're reading, students will be asked to record words or objects used to describe the pastoral setting or to establish it in order to create a guideline for their own projects. We will also discuss various poets or other authors who have used this imagery. For a pre-assessment, students will be asked to go to a website like poetryfoundation.org, which is a big search engine for poets and poetry, and you can get biographical information and information about poems and the poems themselves, and to select an example of pastoral imagery to discuss in class. I don't particularly care in this how they find it. They can use Google pastoral poem example and bring that in. Whatever they can find works for this. And it will at least get them thinking about the topic, and it'll help those who might not yet have a firm grasp on it by showing multiple various usages. And these examples will be discussed in small groups, so even if a student is really struggling to find something based on language ability or tech ability or anything, they will at least get to experience these group discussions and see how their peers are engaging with the material. And then students will be given an assignment to create their own interpretation of pastoral without words, using photos, videos, and audio. We will give lab time in class as needed so that students can ask for help in locating and selecting their digital artifacts for their presentation. And this will also be a good time for the teacher to present different presentation tools like Adobe Spark and Google Slides or Prezi to ensure that all students are starting off on an equal footing with multiple options, so no one feels shoehorned into one thing because they just don't know how to do anything else. Students will then assemble their artifacts into a single presentation that they think captures what pastoral means in the digital age. This can either be done in lab time or at home over the weekend, or over a couple days, depending on, again, access to tech at home, access to lab time, how long the class is. They will then switch projects with another student. This can be either anonymously or in the small groups used for previous discussion, or however the class wants to structure it. You could even put it to a vote and let the students decide how they want to switch their projects. Just make sure that everyone gets someone else's. And then they will write a short translation of how they interpret that virtual representation of a modern pastoral. This interpretation should be no longer than 1 page or so, and it can be, again, written in any format as long as it's just text. This is sort of the analog translation. And I found this example on Prezi of sort of what I envision for the initial part, the visual or auditory presentation. Once it loads, this one has text, but if you ignore that, this is along the lines of what I would be looking for from a student. I think Prezi works really well here, the way it sort of moves around it. Just the way that it changes slides even adds to the feeling, and you can see these different images. They could add color, they could put sound along with it. Some of these could be videos, just whatever they feel. And then it's really an open assignment for the student. And then for a post-assessment, students will get their peers' review, interpretation of their own project back, and they'll read over it and then be asked to write a short reflection on both the creation of the project and the intended versus the actual reception by their peer. And I have here about 2 to 3 pages in length, but again, this can be tailored to the needs of your classroom. It can be as simple as a 5-paragraph essay, if that's what you're working on, or it can be this longer, or it can be you could turn it into a creative writing piece or something. Really, again, there's a lot of flexibility in this lesson plan. But I think sort of as a medium ground, a 2 to 3 page reflective essay is a good place to start. For the ISTE standards for this, I think it meets quite a few, but particularly the creative communicator, as students will select the presentation medium that best suits their own goals, and they'll communicate ideas uniquely without words using digital media. Knowledge constructor, because students will need to curate their images, videos, and sounds from the internet or the world around them to create a project to convey a cohesive vision to another student. So they need to sort of not just be able to understand it themselves, but ensure that someone else can also. And also innovative designers. Students will need to use a variety of technologies to gather, create, and present their projects. And the project is highly open to their own interpretation and encourages intellectual exploration. I think this unit really easily fits into the redefinition level of the SAMR model. Students will be using digital media tools such as audio and video recordings, photographs, digital art, maybe even archival research, depending on how far they want to take it, to create a virtual experience of what pastoral means to them. They will then be able to share this creation with another student who will reinterpret it into writing. The assignment is open enough to allow for a wide variety of media usage and presentation methods, and this allows students to choose both the format that they're comfortable with and the one that they feel best conveys their ideas. And again, this is also, it's really flexible to the needs of the class. If you have a class with very low levels of media exposure or tech exposure, you can work through and assign a specific presentation method, like Prezi. Say everyone is going to do a project in Prezi or in Adobe Spark and just really work on that one program. Or you can do as I have it set up here and give sort of a free-form assignment. Really just dial it into what your class needs. And I hope it would really be an interesting lesson and a way to engage with Shakespeare in a way that's not just reading the text and memorizing sonnets or passages, and sort of understand the baseline structure of a text rather than just the content. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.